All right, let's just jump right in. We are standing on the very edge of a massive revolution. I'm talking about a technology so powerful, it's about to change, well, pretty much everything, kind of like the computer did. And that technology is genetic engineering.
I mean, really think about that. Imagine you're back in the 80s, right? And someone tries to tell you about smartphones, the internet, the world we live in today. It would sound completely absurd, just pure science fiction. Well, guess what? That's exactly where we are right now with our ability to edit the code of life itself. What used to be fantasy is, well, it's becoming very, very real.
So, first things first. Humans have actually been engineering life for thousands of years. But something happened very recently. A breakthrough that completely changed the game, turning this slow, clumsy process into something incredibly fast, cheap, and precise.
Yeah, for most of history, our only real tool was selective breeding. You pick the best plants, the best animals, and just hope their good traits get passed on. Then, fast forward to the 20th century, and we got a bit more direct. We started blasting plants with radiation to cause random mutations, and by the 70s, we were sticking little bits of DNA into mice. But all of these methods, they were kind of like trying to edit a book by just randomly firing a shotgun at it. Yeah, you might change something, but it's incredibly messy and imprecise.
And that's the thing you've got to understand. For decades, gene editing was just so ridiculously hard. We're talking millions of dollars, years of work, and even then, it wasn't very accurate. It was a tool for only the most elite, well-funded labs in the world, not exactly something that could kickstart a global revolution.
And then CRISPR showed up, and the change was just wow. Almost overnight, the cost of gene editing plummeted by 99%. What used to take years now takes a matter of weeks. We went from having a clunky old map to having a high-precision GPS system for our very DNA. This is why we're calling it a revolution.
So what is this miracle technology? Well, here's the crazy part. We didn't invent it. Nope, we just found it. CRISPR is actually a natural system. It's an ancient weapon in the microscopic war that's been raging forever between bacteria and the viruses that hunt them.
Okay, so here's how it works in nature. Picture this. A virus attacks a bacterium. If the bacterium manages to survive, it does something amazing. It snips off a tiny piece of the virus's DNA and stores it in its own genetic code, in a kind of archive called CRISPR. Think of it like a molecular most wanted poster. Then it arms a special protein weapon called Cas9 with a copy of that poster. That Cas9 protein then just patrols the cell, and if it ever finds a 100% perfect match, snip! It cuts the invading DNA and the threat is neutralized. It's brilliant.
And the huge breakthrough for us was realizing, hey, this system is programmable. Scientists figured out they can give the Cas9 protein a piece of any DNA they want it to find. So it basically becomes this biological GPS that can navigate the massive, complex landscape of a genome, find the exact spot it's looking for, and make a perfectly clean cut. It's like having a tiny DNA surgeon on call, ready to operate.
And this ability to make these incredibly precise cuts, it just blows the doors wide open for medicine. We're talking about the potential to cure diseases that have been with us since the dawn of humanity. And we can start with the viruses that literally hide inside our own DNA.
And just how real this potential is became crystal clear back in 2016. Scientists took rats that had the HIV virus literally woven into the DNA of cells all over their bodies. Then, with just a single CRISPR injection, they were able to remove more than half of the virus. This was huge. It was proof in a living animal that CRISPR could hunt down and destroy these hidden viral invaders.
And the list of what we could potentially target is it's breathtaking. We could finally get rid of retroviruses like HIV and herpes for good. We could take our own immune cells and supercharge them, turning them into elite cancer-hunting machines. In fact, the first human trials for exactly that are already happening. But maybe, just maybe, the biggest impact will be on genetic diseases.
Get this. Over 3,000 different genetic diseases are caused by nothing more than a single incorrect letter in our DNA. Just one typo in billions of letters. Now, for a tool like CRISPR, which is literally designed to find and edit specific letters, well, this is the perfect problem for it to solve. We could, in theory, cure thousands of diseases, forever.
But, fixing diseases in one person, that's one thing. What happens when we start applying this technology to reproductive cells, to embryos? This is where the science goes from medicine to something else entirely. We're now in the middle of a really profound ethical debate about editing the human gene pool itself.
And that really is the fundamental question, isn't it? If we can edit the genes of embryos, where do we draw the line? Because as soon as we open that door, the door to making heritable changes, edits that get passed down for generations, we have to decide what's okay and what's not. And make no mistake, experiments on human embryos have already happened. The technology is here. The question is no longer if we'll use it, but how.
And it's really easy to see how this becomes a slippery slope, right? It starts with something almost everyone would agree on. Let's get rid of a horrible, deadly disease like Huntington's. Okay, great. But then, well, why not prevent the risk of Alzheimer's? And hey, if you're already in there editing things, why not add in perfect eyesight? Or eventually, what about enhancing intelligence? You can see how the justification slowly, creepingly shifts from healing to upgrading.
And listen, this isn't some far-off, futuristic, ethical problem. We are already making these kinds of choices. Right now, today, in Europe, when Down syndrome is detected during a pregnancy, about 92% of those pregnancies are terminated. We are already making profound, life-altering choices based on genetic information. CRISPR just makes the menu of options a whole lot bigger.
So, what this all means is that this technology is putting humanity at a massive crossroads. Down one path, you've got a future potentially free from disease, free from our current limitations. But down the other path, well, that one could lead to terrifying new kinds of inequality and control.
I mean, the promise is just staggering to think about. We could potentially stop aging. We could engineer away diseases like obesity. We could even modify ourselves to travel to other planets. But the peril, the downside, is just as stark. We're talking about the return of eugenics, the creation of a new class system, a genetic divide between the enhanced and the naturals, or even worse, totalitarian governments creating literal super soldiers. The stakes could not possibly be higher.
And just banning the technology? That's not the answer. It won't work. The science is just too easy, too accessible now. If you prohibit in one country, the research will just move underground or to places with fewer rules and less oversight. No, the only real path forward is to engage with it head-on, to guide the research with transparency, with caution, and with a serious public debate.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most personal question of all. Think about yourself. Most of us have something genetically imperfect about us, right? In a future where we can select for perfection, would people like you and me have even been allowed to exist? What was once science fiction is now our reality to shape. The only question left is, what will we choose to become?